Byron White was born to a poor family in rural Colorado in 1917. He spent most of his childhood working in the fields with his brother in order to help support their family, especially during the Great Depression. Having very little money and seeing education as a way out, White worked hard to become a star athlete and valedictorian of his local high school. As a result of this, he earned an academic scholarship to attend the University of Colorado, a hard-working student and a noted football player. White would go on to earn a Rhodes Scholarship to attend Oxford University. Interestingly, despite all these accomplishments, White was not the first person in his family to achieve all this, with his older brother also having been the valedictorian of his local high school, a star athlete at the University of Colorado, as well as a Rhodes Scholar. Now, before going to England, White spent one season playing for the Pittsburgh Pirates, now known as the Steelers, allegedly becoming the highest paid player in the NFL during that time. At Oxford, his studies were soon interrupted by the outbreak of war in Europe, so he returned to the United States to attend Yale Law School. And even though he's more interested in legal issues at this point, White ended up playing for the Detroit Lions in his free time, so that he could use his NFL salary to help cover the cost of his law school education, as well as his brother's medical school tuition, with White using what was left over to help support his parents back in Colorado. And when the US entered the Second World War, White attempted to join the Marines, but he ended up being sent to the Navy instead. During his time at the Pacific, he notably ended up earning 2 Bronze Stars, and even survived a kamikaze attack on his ship. After the end of the war, White returned to Colorado, and worked as a lawyer until the early 1960s. During this time, he was nominated to be the Deputy Attorney General of the US, and then a Justice of the Supreme Court by an old friend of his, President John F. Kennedy, with White having first met Kennedy in Europe before the start of the war. During his time on the court, he notably joined the majority in helping to expand civil rights during the 1960s, but he also ended up dissenting in several high-profile cases, such as Roe v. Wade, where he stated that there's nothing in the Constitution itself that provided a right to an abortion. Now, during his almost 3 decades on the court, he continued to remain active in sports by repeatedly challenging his law clerks to games of basketball, with there even being a basketball court on the top floor of the Supreme Court building. White eventually retired in the early 1990s and ended up being replaced by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But before passing away in 2002, he would often reflect that despite achieving so much, in a few years he, like many others, would soon be forgotten by the public, with one of the few reminders of him being an old and dusty painting found in the halls of some government building. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. If you'd like to have early access and give feedback on this type of content, please consider joining the Patreon. And as always, thanks to my patrons on Troy and DC. Thank you so much for the support you have given me so far.